Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Hummingbird Arcana Podcast. I'm Jo Hummingbird. I'm an Evolutionary Astrologer and an Usui Reiki Master, here to deep dive into the worlds of astrology, Reiki, Mysticism, and so much more with you. And today I wanted to just take the time to make a quick episode, not too terribly long. I don't want to steal too much of your time today, unlike some of the other episodes I've had recorded already for you guys that I'm super excited to be sharing down the pipeline later. But today I wanted to come on here and talk about a couple of things that I wish I knew before becoming a certified Usui Reiki Master. And for those of you who didn't listen to the intro episode and heard a little bit about my journey there, I touched on it briefly. I'll go ahead and link somewhere on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, and I'll link it down below in the show notes if you are listening on any other platform. But when I was becoming an Usui Reiki Master, I didn't know that I was going to follow all the way through immediately. Not that I did in a super fast way. I mean, some people take years or even decades to do so. I did so within the matter of less than a year. So that is quite fast in comparison to other people's journeys, but it's not in the sense that I'm being braggadocious about that by any means. That's just my journey, my timeline in this lifetime. But I do wish that I knew a couple of things before I got into that world, because my first Reiki teacher is different than my teacher who certified me for levels 2 and 3. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying that anybody who has different Reiki teachers across their certification timeline is wrong or needs to go back and learn the basics or do it all over again or anything like that. So I just want to get that disclaimer out of the way, because it's not what I intend to share here. But I do just want to give you guys a few pointers into, if you're looking into becoming an Usui Reiki Master yourself, I do have those classes available that I can certify you to become one as well. You don't have to, again, make me your sole proprietor teacher or master. You don't have to do that. It's just a matter of, there are a few things that I wish I would have learned from my Reiki masters that certified me before I would have stepped into the world of Reiki. And honestly, if I could go back, I would get certified all the way through from one teacher who taught me my second class and my third class to become the master teacher myself. So without further ado, I'm not going to waste any more of your time just talking nonsense. But the first point that I wish I would have known is that I wish I would have known how much psychic, spiritual, emotional, psychological energy this would have required of me. And in direct correlation with that, all of those energies kind of draining me physically. Not in the sense that it is something that always happens. This isn't like if you become a Reiki master, like you're going to always be tired. No, it's just a matter of when I was being certified, when I was going through the attunement processes, when I was integrating the energy post-attunements and post-classes, I wish I would have known how much energy it was going to require of me. Nobody really set me up in the beginning from that standpoint to be able to understand how much of an energetic sacrifice it was going to be. Not that it's like you're martyring yourself to become a Reiki practitioner or master eventually. It is just something that I wish my Reiki masters would have spent a little bit more time explaining to me before I even signed up to take Reiki. My first Usui Reiki master, she didn't, describe to me a whole lot about what Reiki was before I jumped on board to becoming certified as a level 1 practitioner, which if you're following the traditional forms of Reiki, you can only, or again, if you're only following the traditional forms, this isn't like modern form or what the internet has digitized into becoming Reiki, or what the new, what I call the new caged movement, even though a lot of people call it the new age. I just would have preferred my first Usui Reiki master to have disclaimed to me that it was going to be quite taxing on my energy personally. Again, that's not going to be the case for everybody. Some people are super energized by Reiki, so it's the exact opposite. They get a boost and they get this rush, and they get, not in the sense of like an adrenaline rush at all. It's not like an adrenaline junkie experience, but it's something that revitalizes them, something that renews them, something that makes them feel whole again. Some people have described in the Reiki space, especially some that I have attuned myself, they've described it as similar to feeling baptized from the Christian church. A feeling of like weightlessness, of something being taken off your chest, or just a lightness and a peace and a calm. Some people get that, which I had each one of those experiences throughout the different levels of attunement, but specifically when it comes to level 1, the very beginning, when you're just becoming a practitioner that can practice on yourself and not other people for that first 21-day period. This is something that I just wish my first Reiki master would have emphasized a little bit more, in the sense that, hey, you're going to have a little bit harder time sleeping. You're going to probably drain your energy a little bit easier when you're practicing Reiki because it's a new frequency that you're attuned to. Not that she didn't disclaim anything at all. It's not like she just threw me to the deep end. I don't want to put it that way and, dog on my Reiki master by any means. I wish that she would have gone into a little bit more detail about her own personal experience, even having been attuned to Reiki the first time, or other students that she's attuned and sharing their experiences with their consent as well. And forgive any noises you may hear in the background. My noise cancellation doesn't block off all the noises of my very inconsiderate upstairs neighbors. Again, if you listened to any of my other episodes, you may have heard that in the background, or you may have heard me disclaim that. I do currently live in between my Mercury ascendant line and my Jupiter descendant line. So these are hammered right in between my north and my south nodes. So this is kind of crazy drivingville for me. Just from like a stimulus standpoint, not being able to find any quiet time no matter what I do around these places, because I am closer in proximity to my Mercury ascendant than I am my Jupiter descendant. But those two energies together, Mercury being the stimulus and the analysis paralysis and the overstimulation even, and then Jupiter being the expander and the thing that makes things larger than life, it's like my soul is miserable being on this line. So I am so ready to get off of this, and for lack of a better term, stupid fucking line that I've been on most of my life. But besides the point, don't really get carried away here. So that's just a disclaimer in case you hear any noises in the background that my noise cancellation can't actually cancel out. But yes, to wrap up that point, I just wish that my first Usui Reiki Master would have hammered in a little bit harder on, hey, this is an attunement. This is something that's changing the trajectory of your spiritual experience for the rest of your lifetime. Not in the sense that it's super dramatic or something you need to be afraid of, but just, mentally preparing you to be overstimulated easier from an energetic standpoint because of how much energy is being channeled to you and being moved through you, even just being attuned to Reiki, not even performing a healing on anybody or practicing on yourself, just being attuned to that life force frequency, something that I wish they would have gone a little bit deeper on. So the next point that I want to bring up here, again, I'm keeping these a little bit shorter and concise, so that way I'm not wasting too much of your time here today. My other episodes are longer in nature, but I did want to keep this shorter so I'm not, again, wasting your time or making you sit down for an hour out of your busy day whenever there are so many other things that you could be doing. So thank you for taking the time to sit here with me and to go on this journey with me. But the second point I want to make is that I wish I would have known how rewarding this experience was going to be. I wish that they would have emphasized the profundity of it rather than just being something that I could make money off of, or something that I could, extend as a way for other people to make money in the spiritual community, not something to exploit, but rather something that rewards the soul for being the facilitator for the life force energy to move through us and to help anchor in that frequency on Earth during this time. Because Reiki has only been recently reintroduced into the modern world within the last 200 years or so, 150 to 200 years. So this is not something that was common knowledge by any means. And even when it was practiced by the ancients and Buddha and Yeshua, it wasn't something that was widespread because of persecution, of course, with the Roman Catholic Church and so many different empires that did not want Yeshua or the ancient Vedas or Buddha, Bodhisattva, to even share with people because it was so easily manipulated by the masses and by the forces of quote-unquote control and power, even though it is a manipulated sense of power, a distorted, evil, dark sense of power that is against human condition and free will and sovereignty and divinity. But I wish that my Reiki masters would have emphasized the rewarding nature of it rather than something that is just about making money off of healing or sharing healing energy with other people, because that's not all that it has been about for me personally. It has, it really has deepened my connection to other human souls whenever I either perform a healing on them, or I attune them to be a student of mine, or somebody just has a question about Reiki that may already be attuned from somebody else, and I get to share insight and wisdom from my experiences with them, or vice versa. It has been something that is like another, not language in a sense that it's like gate kept and super secret nowadays, but something that speaks to the soul directly and beyond the words that you're using is something that can be understood universally. Even when I was working at a metaphysical shop and practicing a lot of my services out of that shop, there was a specific Reiki client of mine who came from a certain country within Southeast Asia. I do not remember because it was so many years ago, but she didn't speak a word of English, and her daughter was the one who booked the session with me after having one with me herself, and she convinced her mom to go get a Reiki session, even though she didn't speak English and she didn't really feel the need to come sit with me for any reason. But, you know, her daughter convinced her, and she got onto my Reiki table, and we did work on her, and she ended up crying because she had so much energy stored up and released. And this Reiki, the universal life force energy, translated through the language barrier of human density and back into the soul. And that is the so utmost important part of Reiki that I want to emphasize here, because I wish that my teachers would have emphasized that a bit more. So I want to put the emphasis there. It's not that they never mentioned it in passing or that it wasn't at all, you know, a core part of Reiki itself that is just kind of implied, but that's exactly what they did. They kind of implied that as like a default of, yeah, this is a connection to soul and da-da-da-da, but here's what you can do with it. Productive, 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 capitalist, 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 exploitation, exploitation, exploitation. Instead, something that I want to rewire and reroute that narrative to focus upon is the profundity of connecting with other souls, even despite not knowing the language that they speak or having a shared experience together on this earth, or even a difference of opinions or experiences in life altogether. Aside from that one woman who didn't speak English, there was an older gentleman who came in one time. He was very egotistical. He was very proud and very just toxic masculine, but dressed up in a spiritual disguise. And he came into the metaphysical shop, and he was looking to get a Reiki session. I don't want to say his exact words because I don't remember what they were, but something along the lines of like, well, I've had Reiki healings from so many healers, and I've gotten Reiki from like the two-person down from Usui, and da-da-da-da-da. I was alive when that happened, and da-da. Like, okay, good for you. What are you here bragging about that for? Do you want to get something done or not? Do you want to, like, what are you here just bragging to people in a store about when you could just be making a YouTube video about that, or sharing that with your community close knit instead of just going to a shop and word blabbling? Like, I get it. Older gentleman, he wanted to connect with people who were somewhat within his realm of community and understanding, and we were the closest thing to that. And so he came to us, he started talking about all that. And eventually my store owner had to come out because he was kind of heckling us a little bit, not in the sense that he was trying to get anything free out of us, but he just wouldn't leave us alone and he wouldn't do anything. He would just kind of stand there and loiter and talk about all that he's done and been through. And so she came out and she was like, so did you want to book a session? Did you want to do Reiki today? You're talking about Reiki. I hear you mentioning it. Did you want to do something today? We have practitioners in house if you wanted to experience that for yourself. She does a really good job of kind of rerouting people to that. She used to be not a CEO, but like a chief of something. She was like a step down from a CEO of a very major bank in the United States, and she quit that to pursue this metaphysical business. So of course she's a very good saleswoman. And he was like, yeah, sure. And he took a look at all the practitioners and he chose me. And he was like, all right, let's see what you can do. And I was like, oh my fucking God. I was eye rolling him the whole time, trying to ignore him, trying to not engage in conversation with him. And of course he had to pick me. So this is how you know Reiki speaks beyond the barriers in which our ego or our fears or our trauma or our desires or our boundaries want to put in place. And it just speaks directly to the soul. And he sat in my chair and I performed Reiki on him, and immediately he fell asleep. And I just did as much Reiki on him as possible. I didn't want to disturb his slumber by, being like, hey, wake up, we're doing the Reiki. I was just like, okay, his physical body needs the rest while this energy integrates. So I'm just going to do the Reiki on him. And when the time is up, I'll wake him up. And so, 15, 20 or so minutes pass and the timer goes off and I wake him up. And the first thing he says when he comes to, he goes, wow, that was powerful. And I was like, oh, thank you. And I just escorted him out of the room because I had nothing from my ego standpoint to say to him because of, how his ego was presenting to me. But despite our egos and our human avatars not, quote unquote, getting along or being on the same page, that was a connection made between souls. It was something that assisted him in being able to release whatever his physical ego was attaching to in the moment, to surrender to it, and to be so at peace in that moment as so to fall asleep. He felt safe enough energetically to do so, whether or not he's just an old tired man that's grumpy and alone or not. His soul felt comfortable enough to let go and be present enough with me, a very young, very visibly gay, effeminate man, and not let that stand in the way of his own ego. So that's how you know that Reiki speaks to the soul, even beyond the boundaries of what the human condition can place upon ourselves and each other. And that's something that I wish that my teachers would have emphasized a little bit more, instead of it just, again, being something that you can sell and exploit. It's something that you can use to heal and connect, as if, that is implied with Reiki, and that's what was implied with Reiki. But a lot of the community in which I was, quote unquote, raised, for the lack of a better term, around in the Reiki sense, they focus a lot on the exploitation of it rather than the healing. And that's not to say that my Usui Reiki master, who taught me the level 2 and level 3 attunements to be able to become a master myself, she did a better job at that for sure, because she was also that metaphysical shop owner. It's just a matter of my other Reiki teacher, master, she did not do that. And this other master who I was certified with, she didn't do that all the time. She didn't emphasize the healing all the time. She emphasized the money first and then the healing, which I think is exactly the reason why I want to emphasize this in the exact opposite way of healing first, money later. Because it's not about the financial exchange. It's not about the capitalist growth or experience as a result of that. It's about getting the soul the healing that it needs, and there being an exchange of some kind that takes place, regardless of if that's financial or not. And that leads me to my third point, which is I wish that they would have told me that Reiki isn't something that you have to charge money for all the time. Because, again, both of my Reiki masters, whether one did it less than the other or not, they both talked so much and so heavily about this being something that you can make money off of and build a business from and get clients and build this and that a bit. Like, it was just so Western and so jaded by money and finance, and I didn't appreciate that. I didn't value that, not in the sense that it didn't provide any value for me in some form. It's not what my soul is focused upon in the purpose of becoming an Usui Reiki master, and that's not the purpose that I want to help my students focus upon in becoming Usui Reiki practitioners and masters. And this is something I am so passionate about. I am so intentional about when it comes to marketing my Reiki, when it comes to spiritual marketing in general, because I never want it to seem like I'm trying to just sell you a quick thing and then pocket your money and move on and leave you in the dust. It's about empowering the soul and seeing what value can be traded, because it doesn't even have to be about the money. It can be about, okay, you buy me a lunch and we do a little Reiki session, or let's do a series of setting up X, Y, and Z time where I can either come over and offer this for you and you can offer X for me. There's ways that we can trade and barter this without it being something that we exploit. And it doesn't have to be something that we have to capitalize off of all the time. It can be something that can improve the quality of life in a similar way in which Reiki is returning you to your soul essence without any boundary being placed upon it, other than, the respective human consent and condition, and the fact that we are limited by our physical nature in this third density. Other than that, Reiki moves beyond all of that. Limitations, fears, doubts, anxieties, projections, traumas, everything. And so what's something that we can move beyond the trauma of money and capitalism and exploitation and this system in which purposefully disempowers and oppresses us. This is something that we can impart upon ourselves to have an equal exchange, whether or not that has anything to do with money at all, whether or not that has anything to do with a system at all. This is a system outside of the system. The Usui Reiki system is purposefully outside of that, which if you listen to the first episode, again, I'll link it, my little introductory episode. If you heard my little brief blurb on Reiki, it was introduced to the Western modern world by a woman, and it originally wanted to be gate-kept financially by men. And I'm not saying that whenever you have men involved that is always going to be a bad thing. Again, it's just a matter of intention and soul-to-soul connection. But at the same time, I don't want to not acknowledge the fact that there are Reiki masters and Usui masters out there that are not having the best intentions in mind because they just want to make a quick buck off of you and charge you out-of-pocket prices that are just ridiculous for even just a session. Like that's why you notice that my Reiki sessions are not upwards of, $100. Like I have $22 or $25 or something like that. And then I have, I think $45 or $50, 55, something around that range. And that's all for just anywhere between like 25, 30 minutes of my time up to an hour of my time. And the only part where Reiki gets to be quote unquote expensive is whenever you're taking the individual Reiki classes, and they're cheaper if you bundle them all together and you purchase the Usui Reiki Master bundle course, which I will link down below if you want to be a part of that. I actually have a special surprise pertaining to that coming soon for you guys. So keep posted because this is really juicy and exciting for my soul to be able to share with you. It's not about making money. Again, it's not about exploiting Reiki as a system. I am just super excited about what I have going on behind the scenes. And before I spoil too much, I'm just going to keep it hush hush for now. But yes, I just want to drive in and have this be the hill that I die on, if at all, that Reiki is not something that we need to exploit or exchange money for all the time. And if you find yourself in the position where you cannot offer money for Reiki for me, reach out to me and see what we can come up with together. Maybe that's, okay, you invite me over and cook a meal, or we find other ways of your expertise being able to benefit my life or my business or my immediate sense of comfort or ability to move through the world with different information or empowering each other in other ways. This doesn't have to be something that we utilize money in the systems that oppress us and keep us jaded and stuck in survival mode and this go, go, go energy and this create, 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 but you don't have anything to create from and you're pouring from an empty cup all the time. It doesn't have to be something that perpetuates that. It can be something that further empowers us to step away from that even, and to remind ourselves of the soul-to-soul connection, to remind ourselves that this can be a profound experience for the both of us if we let it, if we're not letting our traumas and our fears and our distorted perceptions of what we have been through step in the way of our liberation, our soul's connection to ourselves, and our ability to mutually exchange that between souls to help guide each other back home, to help us remember who we truly are. So those are just a few points I wanted to make about what I wish I knew before becoming an Usui Reiki Master. And again, if you are interested in becoming a certified Usui Reiki practitioner or master yourself, I will link below all of my individual Reiki classes as well as the master course bundle. Again, keep your eyes peeled about that special little surprise pertaining to the master course bundle that I will be having coming out soon. But thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to this episode of the Hummingbird Arcana Podcast. If you enjoyed, go ahead and if you're watching on YouTube, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that post notification bell so you're notified every time a new episode comes out. And if you're listening on any other platform, thank you for streaming and thank you for supporting my podcast. I really appreciate it and it means a lot. So again, if you also want to book a Reiki session with me and you don't want to take the classes yourself, you don't feel like paying that much money right now, but you still want the benefits of the exchange of Usui Reiki, then you are also welcome to book a session with me. They're very affordable. They are not expensive whatsoever. They're like about the cost of like a tank of gas, if that, not even that expensive for my shortest length session. So if you want to experience Reiki, you can do it in person, you can do it at distance. It really just depends on what you're comfortable with and what you have the availability for. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. I am so grateful to be assisting you and awakening you to your cosmic divinity. Thank you for watching this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Many blessings.